You think if she pulls away, you need to chase harder, explain better, prove more. But the truth is, the moment you start begging for clarity from someone choosing distance, you stop fighting for the connection and start fighting against your own self-respect. You think her silence is a puzzle you can solve. Most of the time, it's an answer you refuse to accept. Listen carefully, because this is where most men destroy themselves without even noticing it. When a woman distances herself from you and ignores you, your first instinct is to move closer, to text again, to ask what's wrong, to replay every conversation in your head, to search for the perfect message, the perfect timing, the perfect emotional combination that will somehow make her come back warm, available, and certain. But that instinct, unchecked, will make you weak in your own eyes. And if you keep needing reminders like this, if you need truth more than comfort, subscribe now, because some lessons are too important to hear once. You need them repeated until they become how you move. Here's what it really means when she distances herself and ignores you. It means the dynamic has changed, and your job is not to force it back. Your job is to read reality, stand still inside yourself, and respond like a man who refuses to abandon his standards just because his emotions got activated. That's the thesis. Not win her back. Not decode her, not say the magical line. Read reality, keep your center, respond with self-respect. The biggest misconception is this: you think distance means you need more effort. Sometimes effort builds connection. Sometimes effort at the wrong moment destroys your position completely, because effort offered where there is no openness stops being strength. It becomes overextension. It becomes emotional leakage. It becomes pleading in a nicer outfit. That's called chasing. And chasing is what men do when they are more afraid of loss than committed to dignity. Hard truth: if someone is interested in keeping you in their life, you will not have to drag them into basic communication. Read that again in your bones. If someone values the connection, you will not have to perform CPR on every interaction. Can people get overwhelmed? Yes. Can people go through things? Yes. Can timing be messy? Of course. But even then, real interest leaves signs of life. Real interest communicates. Real interest may slow down, but it does not make you feel like you are knocking on a locked door, bleeding on the porch, trying to convince yourself the house is still yours. And why does this happen? Why does a woman distance herself and ignore you? Sometimes because her interest drops, sometimes because she's confused, sometimes because she liked the attention more than the responsibility of real connection. Sometimes because you came in too strong, too available, too eager to make her the center of your emotional weather. Sometimes because she senses that your identity is starting to organize itself around her responses. And when a person feels that you need them to validate your worth, the attraction starts suffocating. Not because needing connection is evil, but because neediness without self-command is heavy. It asks for reassurance instead of offering presence. It clings instead of choosing. It reaches instead of standing. And sometimes, let's be honest, the problem is not her distance. It's your fantasy. You weren't relating to what was actually happening. You were relating to what you hoped it would become. You were talking to the potential, dating the possibility, worshipping the image in your mind while ignoring the evidence in front of your face. She became slow. You called it busy. She became cold. You called it guarded. She stopped showing up. You called it complicated. No, stop romanticizing inconsistency. Stop dressing reality in softer language so your ego doesn't have to grieve. That's called self-deception. And self-deception has a brutal cost. It steals your time, it steals your focus, it steals your edge. It turns a grounded man into an emotional detective. You stop working with hunger, you stop training with presence, you stop sleeping with peace, you stop laughing fully, you stop leading your own life, you stop being where your feet are because your mind is somewhere else, trying to interpret a delayed reply like it's scripture. That cost is too high, too high. No woman is worth the price of your internal collapse. No connection is worth your self-betrayal. You know what hurts the most? It's not even being ignored. It's what being ignored exposes. It exposes where you still hand your identity to someone else. It exposes where you still believe love must be chased, earned through suffering, secured by overgiving. It exposes the little boy inside the man who still thinks if I can just be enough, they won't leave. But life keeps teaching the same lesson until you stop resisting it. Your worth is not decided by someone else's availability. So reframe it. Her distance is not always a tragedy. Sometimes it's a mirror. Sometimes it's a filter. Sometimes it is life removing your illusion so you can finally see your habits clearly. You thought the pain was losing her, Sometimes the deeper pain is realizing how quickly you are willing to lose yourself. And that is the turning point. That is where weak men panic and strong men wake up. The weak man sees distance and starts negotiating with his own standards. He double texts, then triple texts, then sends the long paragraph, then asks if he did something wrong, then stalks her social media, then tries to look unbothered while being consumed, then accepts breadcrumbs because crumbs feel better than emptiness. He calls it patience. He calls it loyalty. He calls it fighting for love. No, that's not loyalty. That's dependency. That's not patience. That's self-abandonment with romantic branding. Now picture the man who understands the lesson, the man who embodies the solution. He feels the sting. Of course he does. He's not dead. He's not numb. He wanted something real, but he does not let pain turn him into a beggar. He notices the shift. He acknowledges it without dramatizing it. He reaches out once with clarity, if clarity is warranted. Then he watches actions, not promises. He doesn't pursue confusion. He doesn't audition for basic respect. He doesn't build castles out of mixed signals. He returns to his life, to his mission, to his body, to his craft, to his peace. His energy has direction. His emotions have discipline. His standards stay intact even when his heart is disappointed. That man is dangerous in the best way. Not dangerous because he manipulates. Dangerous because he cannot be emotionally blackmailed by uncertainty. Dangerous because he does not crumble when denied attention. Dangerous because silence does not provoke him into self-humiliation. Dangerous because he would rather lose access to someone than lose respect for himself. That's the man people feel. That's the man whose presence speaks before he does. Grounded, calm, unneedy, not cold, not bitter, just rooted, just clear, just unwilling to crawl where he once walked. So what do you do when she distances herself and ignores you? You do not react like a starving man. You respond like a centered one. First, stop flooding the situation with more energy. Stop the extra texts. Stop the bait messages. Stop checking if she watched your story. Stop trying to create coincidences. Stop asking your friends what they think it means. If communication has become one-sided, let the silence breathe, not as a game, as information. Silence reveals. Silence exposes. Silence shows you whether there is anything real standing there when your effort is removed. Second, tell the truth to yourself, not the flattering truth, the useful truth. Has her investment dropped? Has the interaction become uneven? Are you carrying the whole thing? Then say it plainly, because what you name clearly, you can handle. What you keep foggy will keep controlling you. Third, if it is appropriate, send one clean message. 1, not 5, not a disguised emotional invoice. Something simple, direct, and self-respecting. If the energy feels off, say you've noticed the distance and you're not here to force anything. If she wants to talk, she knows where to find you. Then leave it there. That's it. No essay. No courtroom defense. No please just tell me. Clarity does not beg. Fourth, redirect immediately. And I mean immediately. Do not sit in emotional spillage. Move your body. Get back to work. Finish what you've been avoiding. Call the friend who sharpens you. Go train. Read. Build. Handle your responsibilities. Re-enter your real life on purpose. Because rumination is not devotion. Rumination is undisciplined attention. And attention is your most valuable currency. Spend it like a man who knows his future is expensive. Fifth, watch what withdrawal reveals in you. Are you agitated because you miss her or because your ego cannot tolerate being deprioritized? Are you hurt because you valued her or because you built your emotional stability around her responses? Be honest. This matters because if you don't identify the wound, you will keep calling it love. Sixth, refuse the breadcrumb trap. If she reappears with half effort, vague warmth, random check-ins, midnight curiosity, do not rush back like a man rescued from the desert. Slow down. Pay attention. Is she actually showing intention or just testing access? Is she bringing consistency or just reactivating your availability? Many men fail here. They survive the silence only to surrender at the first sign of attention. Don't do that. Attention is not commitment. Contact is not clarity. Chemistry is not character. And hear me clearly on this next part. This is not about punishing her. This is not about making her miss you. This is not a trick. If you turn your self-respect into a strategy to get a reaction, then you still don't get it. The point is not to engineer her return. The point is to reclaim yourself whether she returns or not. That is freedom, that is maturity, that is power without poison, because the deeper lesson is bigger than one woman. Life will keep asking the same question in different forms. When something you want pulls away, will you abandon yourself to keep chasing it, or will you remain whole? That question shows up in relationships, business, friendships, opportunities, status, and every time you betray your center out of fear, you teach yourself that fear is in charge. Every time you hold your frame and face reality cleanly, you teach yourself that you can survive disappointment without becoming pathetic. That changes everything. You stop needing constant reassurance. You stop worshipping potential. You stop calling inconsistency special. You stop confusing anxiety with love. You stop overinvesting where there is no reciprocity. You stop performing for people who are undecided about your value. And when you stop, you start seeing clearly. You start choosing slowly. You start speaking directly. You start noticing red flags early. You start becoming the kind of man whose peace is expensive. You start becoming the standard instead of begging to be selected by one. Do you understand what that does to your life? It doesn't just protect your dating life. It rebuilds your nervous system. It rebuilds your posture. It rebuilds your decision making, because now you are no longer living from panic. You are living from principle. Presence over pursuit, reality over fantasy, self-respect over emotional chaos. That contrast will save you years. And yes, there will be moments when it still hurts. Moments when you want to reach out again. Moments when you miss what could have been. Fine, feel it, but don't worship it. Pain can visit. It just can't lead. Missing someone is not a command. Longing is not instruction. Emotion is real, but emotion is not always wise. A grounded man listens to his feelings without putting them in charge of the steering wheel. Maybe she comes back, maybe she doesn't. That is no longer the central question. The central question is, who are you becoming through this? Are you becoming smaller, more desperate, more reactive? Or are you becoming cleaner, calmer, more disciplined, more real? Because if her distance becomes the reason you finally stop betraying yourself, then even that disappointment served a purpose. So let this be the line in the sand. The moment you decide you will never again audition for basic care, you will never again chase someone into choosing you, you will never again abandon your mission to obsess over mixed signals, you will never again confuse access with alignment. If it's mutual, it will move with honesty. If it's forced, it will keep draining you. And if it keeps draining you, your answer is not try harder, your answer is step back. That step back is not weakness. That's called restraint. That's called discernment. That's called self-command. Boys react, men assess. Boys chase noise, men listen for truth. Boys panic at silence, men use silence to see. Be that man. Be the man who can want deeply without clinging. Be the man who can feel pain without collapsing. Be the man who can lose an option without losing his identity. Be the man who stays rooted when the external shifts. Be the man whose life is too anchored to be thrown off course by one person's inconsistency. Because once you become that man, something powerful happens. You stop moving like someone waiting to be chosen, and you start moving like someone already responsible for his own value. And that energy changes your standards, your relationships, your decisions, your entire life. If she distances herself, let her reveal herself. If she ignores you, let that teach you. If the connection fades, let it fade without dragging your dignity behind it. Stand up straight, breathe, return to your path. You are not here to beg for attention. You are not here to decode disrespect. You are not here to shrink yourself into someone else's temporary preference. You are here to build a life so grounded that anything not aligned with it exposes itself quickly. You are here to become so clear within yourself that mixed signals lose their power over you. You are here to stop looking for the answer in her behavior and realize something deeper. You are the answer, not your text, not your tactics, not your ability to endure emotional confusion longer than other men. You, your standards, your discipline, your self-respect, your refusal to chase what does not choose you with clarity. That is your answer. That is your power. That is your reset. And if this gave you the truth the way you needed to hear it, subscribe, not for me, for you. So you keep these reminders in your ear when emotion tries to make you forget what your spirit already knows. Stay close to people who value truth over comfort, growth over ego, standards over chaos. You belong here if you're done abandoning yourself and ready to move like a man who remembers his worth.